Welcome to Grit and Gravitas with Ann and Annie, bringing you savvy, spirited stories of success. We're excited to deliver 30 minutes of inspiration, impact, and goodness. We'll be bringing you guests and friends from around the country who have very special work and personal journeys. I'm Deeter Gallaher, your co-host with Annie Carnathan, and this is Grit and Gravitas. Let's go! Grit and Gravitas time again, Annie Carnathan. We are rocking and rolling, and our listeners are responding. They are learning so much from our podcast guests.
Ta-da! Bada boom, bada bing.
And we've had an extraordinary lineup in season 4. And I guess it's a good thing when you lose count. I think this would be episode 82. And since most podcasts never make it past 7... we're kind of on a roll.
We're on a roll, and we sometimes are out of sequence for our shows for a myriad of reasons. Okay. And the commitment to publish every other week.
Yep, every other Tuesday.
Since we began is extraordinary. And you and I benefit. We learn things. Our guests who are extraordinary, our producers, everyone along the way who has contributed to this journey. And I just want to point out to the video audience that Ann Deeter Gallaher has a very gorgeous orange sweater on. So I just said we do out of sequence, but it's Halloween month. When we're recording this in October, and it matches our studio chairs and the gorgeous orange they are. So we're all kind of in pumpkin mode.
I'm working the preppy vibe from the 70s. So that's where I'm at.
Yes. And you wear it well, of course.
You're sweet. What I wanted to say, a really cool angle with Grit and Gravitas, for those that are within driving distance of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, one of our deliverables to our guests is we do a once a year in-person reception / party. Gathering / networking. And the joy on our faces when we see all of our guests meet each other, many of whom would be for the first time. Others know each other, from business pathways or organizations or associations. But that really is one of the coolest outgrowths of the podcast. Not only are we reaching an amazing audience, and I have people come up to me, whether I'm out at dinner or at business events, say, "Oh, I listened, and that's so encouraging that they've taken our business vitamins and been able to do something that day with the insights that they've heard from a podcast.
It is extraordinary. And Shoe Strut this year, an epic event.
Salvation Army Shoe Strut, 740 women.
And I mean, badass women. And people were walking up to me, and you don't know me, you don't know this, or you don't know this about me. I don't even know you, right? But I listened to Grit and Gravitas, and here's what it's meant to me. And there's no better feeling. And it turns into a hug fest, which I could never have enough hugs in any day. So that's right up my sweet spot.
Topic, and we haven't done just us lately. So
you need more us.
This will, yes. I think, and I'm going to bring this topic up, and I didn't forewarn you what the topic is. So I'm going to just
You never do, and I never do. That's our charm.
Reaction to this. But this has come up in conversation with me with women probably 4 times in the last 6 weeks.
So we need to talk about it.
So we do need to talk about it. And I'm in year 24 with Deeter Gallaher Group. You are in, what are you, 14?
36 years on professional.
Okay.
Yep,
okay.
14th with UMI. Next year, Jan 11 will start 15th.
So I'll start with a little story of a colleague of mine, just an amazing, successful businesswoman. She's at the top of her game. And we were talking about an event we were doing together. And she said, "Can I just confess to you, honestly, when I get up there, I feel like I have imposter syndrome." And I immediately said to her, if you have imposter syndrome, there's no hope for the rest of us, because she is on her game. And it just was insightful. I met yesterday with a 40-something businesswoman, and she's transitioning in between careers. And I invited her. I said, you need to go to this event. The people in the room are people that will help your career. They'll be connectors with you, network. I'm glad you to make introductions, open some doors. And she said, I don't know. I feel like I'm an imposter at those events. And I thought, oh my golly, here it is again. And she's accomplished. She's in her 40s. These are not new. So we just interviewed Jillian Susie, who is a rock star young lady. I'm sure, and she mentioned that a little bit in her episode, of going into meetings and knowing that she didn't know everything, which is, we all have to admit that. We don't know, heavens, we don't know everything, but we surround ourselves with people who do. But what is your response or advice to women, especially, who are feeling at many different points in their career that they suffer from imposter syndrome?
Oof. I would say, off the top of my head, because again, we did not.
I didn't.
Topic, which I love, and I am spontaneous and impulsive, but it will literally shock no one that I have to think sometimes first. Now, right off the top of my head, I would want to ask a million questions about this person, who's at the top of their game, who has overcome many things, who has overcome every single setback, obstacle, someone who didn't believe in them.
Yep.
Like that's what the show is about, right?
And that is going to occur in every single
100%.
Young person, young man, young woman. If you're coming to the workplace and you're expecting only to hit high strides, high gear, make it to the top, there's a brutal lesson to be learned.
No, there's a reason in sales that the phrase "the most no's wins." Think about normalization of no.
And you're a poster child for that.
I am, because
you get
it's
back
the most
up with
normalized
every
where
setback.
it's I decide whether that's a permanent move on. I decide if that's a temporary setback. No means what I want no to mean. Now, my first question is, because I know you well, have you ever had imposter syndrome?
I have, and so I was going to give two pieces of advice.
So we might be reversing this, but it's good because then I can. Well, then I have something to frame. So
I would say, number one, almost everybody suffers from a form of this. We come to a place in work where we feel like maybe we don't quite belong yet. Maybe they're expecting us to know more than we are. Maybe we're just kidding ourselves. So number one, understand that most people suffer from a form of imposter syndrome.
So let me just interject, because this is my first question. Could that form be a crisis of confidence?
Yes,
in that
absolutely,
moment.
Absolutely.
That I've had.
Feeling like you don't belong at this table.
I wouldn't go that far, but I would say that there's something that gives me pause about it.
Yeah.
And I have, in that moment, a crisis in confidence.
Yeah.
Because I'm confident. I'm not an imposter.
Yeah.
I mean, but unequivocally.
I mean, you're not, but I'm saying the point is that you feel.
Yes.
Like others are perceiving you as maybe not smart enough, not knowledgeable enough, not experienced enough, not, you didn't, get the invite to be at the table.
Or I'm surely scared, right?
Yes.
So that form, yes. Then I'm what you're calling an imposter syndrome, right?
So number two, my message strongly is do it anyway. Go sit at the table, do the project, raise your hand, like Jillian said, say yes to things that make you uncomfortable. And that's a chapter in Women in High Gear. Force yourself out of that comfort zone box. One of the responses to imposter syndrome is just never put yourself out there. And so you don't stay in that zone where I know everything, I'm all good here. I'm not going to push myself anymore, whether it's professionally, maybe it's personally, maybe it's trying a new hobby. Maybe your spouse wants you to try, I don't know, rock climbing, and you're like, oh, I don't think I can do that. I would just say, summon up everything you have inside of you and say, I do belong. So it is confidence. I do belong. Take a look back even at your LinkedIn profile and look. It's good to look at all your accomplishments. We do a lot of awards for clients, and you know that well. And I think one of the value adds to that not only is standing up, somewhere in Philadelphia and receiving a very prestigious awards, but is to remind you and the team, like, dang, look what we did. Look at it. It's a history of all the accomplishments and the projects and the achievements and the milestones. We forget that because we're going 120 miles an hour.
100%.
And I love reminding clients, like, wait a minute. Do you want to look back at the last 10 years? Did you just see what you did for your clients, for the community, for your industry? It's extraordinary.
And I just read, I think the one most valuable thing I constantly work on is the self-awareness.
Yep.
To know how people perceive me.
Yeah.
I know what my intentions are. I understand my style. I understand.
But intentions and perception of others are two different animals.
100%. And you need, to me, I'll just talk about me. I need that validated along the way. And it's like this nugget I've searched for my entire life. And I read an article a few weeks ago, and it was about how tension creates growth.
That's good. Well, that's like being uncomfortable.
Well, and you talk about comfort.
Yeah.
And then I, you know how much a huge quote person I am. And it, the quote was something to the effect like of, your garden is the most beautiful garden ever, but when you sit in it for too long, nothing else will grow there.
Ooh.
And so that's comfort. And talk about a diamond, right? There's a million analogies because it's one of the common tenets for me of being comfortable with conflict, with tension, with knowing I'm absolutely...
Are you comfortable with that?
It depends how...
I'm not.
It depends how someone reacts, because I try to work so hard now to frame it in such a way.
You're anticipating tension.
Yeah.
So
of course. And no one wants it. My husband says there, and I don't know if you know this about him, but he'll avoid conflict. Like he'll create a different planet to not have conflict. Like I go, yeah, you know what, honey, but that's most people. And I'm sort of past going, well, I don't enjoy it. I don't invite it. It's not necessarily, my idea of a great time, but it has to happen.
Yeah.
To grow. And so conflict management, comfortability, tension. There is not a moment where when tension is created, it doesn't ratchet up your endorphins, your emotional level, your response. And it's like, oof, right? It's just like, let's calm down. Let's get some air under that. Let's not keep escalating this with triggers and buttons and all the things, right? And so I think when I think of imposter syndrome, it's death by 1,000 cuts, and I am my own worst enemy. And so I know what I've not done properly. I know the mistakes I've made. I know how much I want to improve and be better.
Right. And
I have the battles to prove it. And I own so much of what I know now that I didn't know then.
Yeah.
And again, I'm saying I get the imposter syndrome, but you started out with like the most important point to me is, could there be a different form to that? I get scared. I have fear, right?
So I love the tension. I have another example for me. You'll laugh at this and maybe appreciate it. Probably 15 years ago, I took up golf, and I was hesitant. For women, I say go absolutely take up golf, because it's a 4-hour networking opportunity that you're not going to have very often with CEOs who are looking for, women to fulfill a foursome for a business golf thing. Well, and I've been invited by clients and by CEOs, and I've raised my hand and I've been uncomfortable, but I've gone. But I took up golf, and talk about imposter syndrome. I'm like, oh my word, I'm going to I love the outfits. I can golf fast, but
You're adorable.
I love to show
so
up,
cute.
get all the new clothes, but terrified. What if I miss the ball? What if I'm swinging and miss? Like, how awful would that be? Now it's not full on imposter because I'm not pretending that I know a ton, but I am showing up. But once I realized that on the golf course, that even some of the men, their ball was coming over on, our fairway. I'm like, well, what the heck? Okay. So not everybody golfing is, ready to go on tour.
And what I'll immediately say that, and I'm a
You're
decent
a good
golfer.
golfer.
I am a good golfer. And I think if I worked at it and was committed to it, I'd be a lot better golfer. You can't really get better at anything without doing it more.
Yeah.
Here's my point. You're very, very, very self-deprecating about golf. And what I want to just look at you in the eye and say, you know what, Ann? It's not really about the golf. It's not about the golf. It's about the camaraderie. It's about who's asking you and why. It's about that connection and that time together. And it's extraordinary what can begin. And I just did this in Arkansas. What can begin as strangers, like, hey, what's your name? What do you do? Why are you here?
Exactly.
And because it's scramble and they take like a day. 5 hours later, you're connected on LinkedIn. I think I can help you here.
Totally.
And so I will just constantly remind you.
But I'll golf with you. I'm okay golfing.
It's not about the golf. And I will say something else. There isn't a single person who has ever played golf, whether you're Pamela Hill and are ridiculously good, or anything beginner.
She does have great golf
or in
clothes.
between, but she commits to it too. Though she's very good, right? And God bless her. And so we were all there to start playing golf. We all stood over a ball and missed it.
Yeah.
And then the really good people go, oh, nice practice swing.
But I think people who love control and we love to succeed at a high level, and then you're thrown in, which is good. It's good to do. I raise my hand to show up for something that I don't have mastery over. I mean, I prefer to ski with everybody.
And
I'm all good there.
And it takes away your comfort.
But then it's funny. So my husband, who was fabulous, and we work off of different sides of the brain because he's a chemist, he would say, well, hon, it might not be all about you. Like surprisingly, probably not everybody is staring at your swing like you think they are. Like I think everyone's going to see me miss the ball. But again, I guess that's another opportunity to just show your self-effacing personality and
your vulnerability,
and how you respond to that is probably even more important.
And I heard this in a podcast the other day. I listened to too many to know who or what it was. And they're coming along in years, right? Less days ahead than behind. And saying, if I learned one thing in life, it's to realize that nobody cares. I thought what everyone thought, they sit there, and I try to say to people, do you understand the world isn't sitting there thinking about you?
Business vitamin,
yes.
Things that we, and so I think back on, this is just one like silly example, but the energy expended on worrying about somebody watching me swing the golf club, even with business partners or clients there, was silly. And I have an article on our Deeter Gallaher group website, and it was published. It was an opinion piece, but it's called the 87 rule. And our rule here at Deeter Gallaher group is if you get to age 87 and you don't remember this stuff, don't worry about it now.
You said it to me.
Yeah. Don't. And so this would be, my discomfort at golfing because I don't have full mastery is silly. Am I going to remember missing a swing, or missing the ball when I'm 87? No. But
you've said it to me. Everybody said it to me, and I think if I could have bottled something, sold it, and for whatever reason, I don't know, because you're baked and done by like 5-7 years old, right? You're just a product of everything you're getting filled up with in this blank slate. How do you not care what everyone thinks? How do you not care when you know someone's so angry with you? But here's the thing. The golf thing is just a microcosm of that. I don't care what people think about me golfing, and that's
Well, that's
and you
a good
said that to me.
skill
Yeah, well, and
master.
here's what I always saw. I'm very goal oriented, right? And sales is a way to win or lose. I compete every
Yeah,
day.
you do.
Someone
Yeah.
said to me our day, you know why you're here 15 years later is because there hasn't been a day that's gone by that I feel like you've taken me for granted. You know, it's the cheetah and the gazelle, right? In Africa, like, you know, the slowest gazelle is going to be eaten by the fastest cheetah. So the bottom line is you better be running. And so I can't remotely control do I care what you think about me? I absolutely do. So I take a lot of time and effort.
But you wouldn't laugh at me when I missed the ball.
No, but my point is like I care about the people that I care about, and I do care what you think.
Yeah.
Of course I do. But I can't. There's no goal worth achieving of everyone liking me or everyone or me worrying about everyone.
Good to remember for imposter syndrome.
That's precisely. That's probably why I don't have it or identify with that
Yes.
like I do with a crisis of confidence. I just said to you, it was supposed to be this huge meeting Friday. The person I'm presenting with can't do it, so it's just me. And now, like, people are coming from far and wide, and I'm making this present. I don't even have a wingman. And it's been a while since so I just have a little bit of like, ooh, yikes, right? It's Tuesday and like, blah, 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 right? So that'll fuel me, but I have to make that turn, right? And you're like, oh, you'll be great. And you'll be like,
You will be great.
I have to get there. But right now it's like,
The other side of this is that you, and you're always prepared for that high gear moment. But you do the best you can do, and then done.
We're all doing the best we can do.
Then we're at the 87 rule. Like, stop. My husband is so good at this, and I'm so not good at this. He's like, hon, you did it. So you gave it the best. Move on.
Did the best you could.
Stop
That's
ruminating, and it's taking such precious energy from today on something you cannot change. You did your best, and, you know, be grateful and go on.
You keep feeding that. It's a black hole.
Yes, it is.
It's driving your car in the rearview mirror instead of the windshield. So, it's as simple as that.
So so my third point. So I would say, number one, almost everybody suffers from imposter syndrome or a crisis of confidence at some time in their career, and sometimes many times in
they're
their
lying
career.
if they say they're not.
Yes. And number two, raise your hand and show up anyway. Do the uncomfortable. Yes. You will grow, you'll learn, you'll be a better person, you'll expand your network. And three, surround yourself with people. It doesn't have to be a formal board of advisors, but, you know, for me, it would be you. And I can think of 3 other women that you run this stuff off of, and they surround you and they remind you like, hey, do you remember when you did this for so-and-so? Do you remember how awesome you were at presenting this business presentation and sealed this deal? And do you know what they said about you? You got to surround yourself, not with the Eeyores. Surround yourself when you're starting to feel a little bit like, oh, I don't know if I'm as great as I think I am. Get your, tribe together. And that's the time to tap them, and they help you, cheer you on to say, yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to stretch. And you're going to grow. And
that will tell you the truth.
Yep.
And the fallibility gets you off the hook for being perfect. I don't know if that's a word. You'll have to tell me. Fallibility. I remember distinctly calling you about someone we knew in common about an RFP and not moving on. And I said, you know, I've told you precisely what the feedback was. You know, here's the RFP. I want to know from your POV and your lens, did she have valid points? And you came back and said, absolutely. And it wasn't just yes, it was here's why I see what she saw, and here's what you can do to make it better the next time. And I'm going to tell you, that's so much of what we're trying to do with the show. It's so much of how we're trying to connect people. And remind everyone that no one is an island. No one has to do this journey alone. And you and I are living, breathing examples of how important that passion is to us.
And I think, you know, we often say that I really feel the Grit and Gravitas episodes are like executive education, and we've both taken them. It's extremely expensive, it's invaluable. Expand your network, you grow in knowledge. But the kind of insight, I would just say, move on from imposter syndrome feeling. Don't let it capture any more energy or attention. Like you for your presentation, you're going to rock it. We know that. I did a big presentation last week, and my husband couldn't wait to say, how did you do? And I said, honestly, hon, it was a grand slam. He said, I told you it would be. I didn't totally listen to him, We did bring our A game, but there's always that hint of, I don't know, maybe I'm not going to show up as good as I think I am. That voice, you just have to, show up anyway.
After I tell my team, we're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the contract
We're
that
human.
says you have to be perfect. We're human.
Yep.
What I won't tolerate and what will get us fired, as well it should, I'll be telling them you need to fire us, is if we make the same mistake over and over and over again. Right. And when we have younger women talk to us about careers, and Jillian Susie, because she's recent, says, I wish I had done that different.
Right.
Well, that's called learning.
Yep.
And almost no mistakes are going to be career fatal.
Right.
Would you have done something different? Would you have done this a different way? Aren't we supposed to be learning? I mean, there's a currency to that only you and I have, having gone through the journey we have. And all we're trying to do is put people on our back, walk a few steps.
One client's lost clients.
Right, that's right.
One employee's lost employees. It is a journey, but what an amazing journey.
and I think about the women I've collected, because someone says to me at some point, you're really good at collecting people, right? I'm very selective.
We've collected like 60 plus for these episodes.
And I knew you, I admired you, I had chemistry with you, I respected you, of course. Never, ever did I imagine this would be as meaningful, just the relationship with you that it's become.
Well, saying yes to your podcast request is probably a tinge of an imposter syndrome, because I had never done a podcast before. I don't even know what the future looks like, but because of you, I did get uncomfortable and grow and said yes. And so thankful to your invite to do that. And I'm not sure if you had a business plan in your mind on what a podcast would look like. But
I just wanted to help people. Yeah. And I said to you, I'm a person of action.
Yeah.
And I think that's very actionable.
But
that's where sort of the confidence and like, how in the world would you and I talking to people not be a good thing? Like, it never entered my mind that it wouldn't be a huge, and people say to me, can you believe the growth? Can you believe can you believe yourself? Yeah. Can you believe, somebody said to me the other day, like you're a really great listener, and like you don't just listen because you have a show, you listen because you're a good listener.
No, when we're out at events, then we immediately take pictures with the Badass Women's Club, because these women have, brought their expertise to the table, and they've all said yes to sit and talk with us and share that with other younger women, mid-careers, older women that want to try something new in the last 10 years of their career or 15 years.
And the impact is extraordinary. So, quick story. I take a lot of 6 a.m. flights, unfortunately. And it gets me like 3 a.m. in the middle of the night. And bleary-eyed, schlepping through.
That's a crazy time to take flights.
I know, right?
I don't think I look at my best at 6 a.m.
But
you got to get up at 4.
Well, so here's the thing. You really have to, because you're getting on 2 flights and then you're showing up for a meeting. If the flights go well. So stress.
That's another stress.
You don't sleep till the alarm goes off. It's just all, it's so disruptive. So here I am. I'm coming in from the parking garage, and I see this woman ahead of me, and first thing I see are her boots. And she's clicking away and almost bouncing, and I'm like, I'm an early person. This is really early. I'm like, oh. And then you just keep watching, and I'm thinking, I think I might know them. And like, long story short, it's Tracy Jones.
Oh, gosh.
And we're bopping in. I'm like,
yes.
She turns around.
She doesn't ever have imposter syndrome. Tracy, if you're listening.
If she could be the light in the studio that lights up, she just sees me. And it's like, that didn't happen.
She's a real deal.
Before the show. And she's just like, oh my God. And, and I go, what are you doing? She goes, I'm going, well, I'm going to Dallas. I got my boots on.
With their cowboy boots on.
Just tell you, I don't want to speak, but I need a day and I want to be prepared. And what are you doing? What are you doing? I get like, oh, can you believe she
sit
with
next
you
to
and
each other?
Monica? No, she was on American and I fly
Oh.
Delta. So we're both waving a different flag there, but unbelievable.
That probably just made your day.
It made both our day.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
speak for her, but
Of
are you
course it did.
kidding me?
Of course
it
did.
just takes this
Yeah.
whole hard, difficult, and then it's like takes the dread out of me. It
No, I
takes
love
this
it.
out of me. I get motion
Yeah.
sickness. I always
Love
feel
it.
like I'm barfing. Like takes all of that and it's like a cleanse.
That just sets your day
Just sets it.
on the best
That's
possible path.
one guest.
Yeah.
And again, the walks of life, the stories, the journeys, just coming in and doing this because we ask. Right. And I can't say enough of it. So I don't know where the show's going either, but I'm all in. And we got so many cool
4
things
years,
coming up,
yes.
right?
Oh, we do have cool things. We have
Yeah.
cool guests coming up. So everyone just hang tight with us here. There's a lot of learning to be had. We just had Aurelia Dominic come out this morning. Her episode, we're recording on a Tuesday. Stay tuned every other Tuesday. Encourage our listeners, like it, share on whatever channel you listen to. We would love your feedback. If you have guest ideas,
Questions, get them to us. We're easy
check
to
us
find.
out on our website, gritandgravitaspodcast.com. Check us on any streaming channel you're on.
And tell
Instagram.
someone, listen,
Yep.
we have coast to coast,
Yep.
California, we can see it all. And so whatever this movement is, we're moving in it with you and cannot thank you enough because it can't happen if people don't care about it.
So, and we want to hear your imposter stories. So, number 1, everybody has a form of it. Number 2, raise your hand and say yes and just show up in spite of it, even when you don't feel brave or courageous. And number 3, surround yourself with really sharp people who are going to lift you up.
Don't be afraid of tension. It's called communication and using words, and it'll all be fine. We can just get through it.
Annie Carnathan, have a high gear day.
Great to see you, ADG. You're the best.
Thanks for listening. It's our desire that these stories will bring energy, ideas, and fresh thinking that you can use today. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram, and have a high gear day.